made a movie, right? I'm putting this in your head. You have just made a movie, and the first movie was great, right? You got good success, good ratings, good reviews. The audience liked it, right? Let's say you wanted to make a sequel to that movie. But instead of you making the sequel, the person who's seen the movie you made and, the person who's made the first one, you instead get a bunch of people who have not seen the first movie to make the second movie, and what do you know? The second movie doesn't get good reviews. I am under the impression that creating a valid and good sequel or prequel, depending on how you look at it, creating a good second part or counterpart to a piece of modern media requires the well-extended knowledge of the original form of content. I would hope, because that's not the case with Star Wars. Most modern media in general, like modern as in like today, like within the past few years, absolutely sucks. Now, there are a few exceptions, and I'll get into those, but I want to talk about Star Wars today because, oh man, Star Wars as the series of movies was absolutely incredible. There are a couple movies that the fans are iffy about, but I like those movies, I think. Like the Rogue One. Rogue One was one of my personal favorite Star Wars movies. It didn't really get received very well, but I think it was a great prequel to the entirety of the series because it happens way before most of the Star Wars movies. And I really enjoyed that movie. And The Mandalorian came out, and this was kind of like, tiptoeing into dangerous waters for Disney Plus fans. And at first it was pretty good, and then it started to get a little bit weird when they introduced some specific people that, like, this isn't what Star Wars is about. Star Wars isn't about people from the Hunger Games playing with a little version of Yoda. No, Star Wars is about like using the force choking people, using lightning, Star Wars, like lightsaber battles, like flying TIE fighters through the legs of AT-ATs and stuff like that. It's not about people playing with Baby Yoda. I don't know, like that's just a minor example, but overall The Mandalorian was pretty good. And then a few more shows came out for Star Wars, and those were absolutely horrendous. And the most recent one that came out was something called The Acolyte. Now, The Acolyte is about these two twins that sparked some controversy, and there are some pretty obvious things that were controversial about these two twins. I will not be getting into that. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but the main thing was something along the lines of the story and the context of Star Wars, because it becomes extremely apparent very quick that in The Acolyte, the people who directed and made this show have not seen Star Wars at all. And spoilers for The Acolyte, of course. I won't be getting into too many major spoilers, but I don't really care if you come into my comments complaining about, oh, you spoiled the show for me, because I'm not going to lie, it's not worth watching. Even like this show, you should just, it's apparently canon, which means that it's apparently, in relation to the accurate story of Star Wars. You shouldn't even watch it. You just should turn your brain off whenever you like just think about the show, because you shouldn't have this in your mind, because it's that bad. Let me get into it. And again, I won't be getting too much into the show because I've only seen clips of each episode, episodes 1 through 4, which is all that's out. But the first main thing that told me that the directors and the producers of the show had no idea what they were doing in regard to any fact of Star Wars is that these two twins were conceived by the Force. Now, you might be thinking, oh, I mean, that's just, a sci-fi thing. That's just fantasy, right? You might be thinking, oh, yeah, well, Anakin was conceived by the Force, right? Anakin was, given birth by his mom and with no father because, he was conceived by the Force. But that was prophesized. Anakin was essentially space Jesus when that happened. Anakin Skywalker. He was brought to life by the Force. And these two twins were brought to life by the Force. And where was this? Where was the foreshadowing? This event was just, it happened again with a character in fiction, let alone Star Wars, as prominent as Anakin Skywalker. This just happened again because I guess the producers wanted it to be cool. I guess I'm not sure. And the funniest part is these aren't like Jedi people. It's a group of witches that call the Force the thread. And it's just, the producers are trying to be way too unique. They're trying to be way too different. As I said, I won't be getting too much into the show, but that little snippet of my yapping alone should tell you that these people who made the show don't know what they're doing. And trust me, there are a lot more examples of the actors and the writers and the producers just non-existent knowledge about the Star Wars series itself. There are plenty of other examples in the show. I'm not even going to get into it, but another massive part, which is a clip from an interview that has been going pretty viral as of like a week or two ago is of one of Acolyte's primary actors saying that Anakin blew up the Death Star, resulting in the deaths of millions of people. Think about that for 1 second. If you know anything about Star Wars, and I mean anything, even if you haven't seen the movies, you most likely know who blew up the Death Star. My boy, Luke, no, I'm not going to curse on this channel. Luke Skywalker, the GOAT himself. Luke Skywalker blew up the Death Star, resulting in the deaths of millions of bad guys. When he said this in this interview, I got very upset because he's one of the more prominent actors in the Acolyte. And that just gives me, it's one of those things in life where it just like tells you everything you need to know about something, because clearly this guy hasn't watched the show, or clearly he did the classic Freudian slip, which is basically you're thinking of something in your mind and you say it out loud instead of the thing you meant to say originally, where it's basically like telling the truth but unwillingly. It makes me wonder who this person is hanging around with in the in Hollywood, in the actor's room, on the set. It makes me wonder what these leeches, what these imbeciles are telling this poor guy, because clearly he hasn't seen anything about Star Wars. He doesn't know what he's talking about. I doubt anyone that made the show knows what they're talking about, but this is just a prime example of how modern media really sucks. And as I said earlier in this video, there are a few examples that are not the case. There are two examples that come to mind. The first one, which is there's three actually. There's two shows and a genre in general. There's the new Fallout show, there's Invincible, and then actually no, there's three. There's also The Boys. So Invincible season 2, The Boys season 4, and the new Fallout show. And also most video games that are coming out are very, very good, but that's a topic for a different video. I'm a massive fan of The Boys. I've seen seasons 1 through 3. I haven't seen season 4 yet. I'm getting to it. But if you gave me season 4, and I've heard amazing things about that, so I'm not too worried about it. But if season 4 was made and I watched season 4 and it showed Billy Butcher and Homelander, doing a fist bump, being like, oh yeah, we're gonna go save Manhattan together, something would be wrong. Or if Homelander suddenly used a katana, or if like Butcher suddenly was faster than the Flash, I don't know, something I know would be wrong. And it would be very apparent that the producers and the actors and whatnot didn't watch seasons 1 through 3. And The Boys is just a perfect example of a series done right by Amazon, by the directors, everyone. The Boys seasons 1 through 3 has been amazing so far, and I have no doubt that season 4 will be awesome, because again, I've been hearing a lot of good things. But Star Wars, completely different story. But I've been yapping for a long time, so I'm going to wrap this up here. Do not watch The Acolyte. Please pretend it's very dark in my room. I apologize. Please pretend that The Acolyte is not accurate to the canon of Star Wars, because it is not Star Wars at this point. It is just like a mosh pit of just like disgusting, like not plot accurate stuff. I don't know how to explain it. There's a big difference between something that is so bad that it's good, or so bad that you just can't stand it. And there are some parts of The Acolyte that are so bad that it's good. Most of The Acolyte is just so bad that you just can't stand it, because as a true Star Wars fan myself, as someone who's seen all the movies multiple times, this sucks. But for now, stay safe.